Hello and welcome to the No Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McDonald, with me, co-host Sheldon Kaufman. Today, we are doing the Boston Celtics Offseason Recap and Preseason Predictions episode. If you don't know how this works, we give every team their own full-length episode, ultimately ending after we do all 30 teams, doing a full predictions episode. We're here with the Boston Celtics. Before we get started, Sheldon has a Celtics-related trivia question. Third episode today. Let's see. Do I go? I don't think I went 3 for 3 because I got one of them wrong, but.
All right, Pat. I think we talked about this game, or we talked about this championship, actually yesterday. Yesterday in the Bucks episode with Doc Rivers. I think I said 2009 in that one, but in the 2008 championship, where the Celtics won and Doc Rivers got his ring, who was named MVP of that Boston Celtics team in 2008?
MVP
Finals
or
MVP.
fine? Okay.
Finals MVP. Sorry.
See, Kevin Garnett was the best player. I'm 90% sure Kevin Garnett didn't win Finals MVP. I think it was Paul Pierce. Playoff Rondo was a thing back then, but I don't think Rondo won Finals MVP. I'm gonna go with Paul Pierce.
That is correct, Patrick. Paul Pierce. Way to end off on a strong one there. That was good. That was good. A little bit of a curveball, but you stayed on the pitch, drove it oppo for a nice little home run.
Backside double type of swing. Yeah. I mean, if it was like I don't know, if it was Kendrick Perkins, that's a backside bomb. Let's go.
No.
But
cue the Kendrick Perkins low light clip. Him setting screens on the Pelicans.
He was pretty good back then. He's completely ruined his basketball credibility with some of his takes. Nobody takes Big Perk seriously anymore, even though sometimes the broken clock will be right twice a day. Perk is somehow right 3 times a day. Slightly better than a broken clock, but still something's off. I don't know how to describe it. It's like he gets leap year twice a year instead of every 2 years instead of every 4 years. So he'll be right an extra time every 2 years. We'll go ahead and talk about the 25 Celtics, most recent Boston Celtics. 2025, let's go. They were 61-21, second in the Eastern Conference. They had a 62-20 expected record, which was second in the NBA. It was tied with Cleveland as well, but it was second. I don't know how they did the separation there, considering well, I'm pretty sure it's basically based off a net rating, so Boston probably had a slightly better net rating. Their SRS, which is opponent quality adjusted net rating, was third in the NBA at 8.28. Basically, how well did they play against their opponents? Pretty damn well was the answer for the Celtics. At home, they were 28-13. On the road, they were 33-8. 39-16 before the All-Star break, 22-5 screaming post the All-Star break. Against the Eastern Conference, they were 39-13 versus the West. They were 22-8. In clutch games, they were a very good 24-11. But they were only 7th in net rating. I think that was one of the better win percentages. Like a top 2 win percentage in clutch games, but a 7.9 net rating, 7th in clutch situations is still very respectable. What really stands out for this Boston Celtics, even extending into the playoffs, if we want to extend it into the playoffs?
Yeah, just a really strong season from them. 61-21, as you see, second in the Eastern Conference behind a really good Cavs team that we talked about recently. Things that stand out, really good on the road, 33-8. That's very impressive. I mean, they were still good at home, but they were better on the road as the record shows. And then they were really good post All-Star break, which helped them solidify that second seed. And then they were really good in the clutch. You have Jason Tatum, who is such a good and underrated player. Unfortunately, I had him until he. I mean, I had him top 5 in MVP for a good bit of the season. But he was hurt. He got hurt a couple of times um, throughout, but that ended up dropping him a little bit. But I mean, man, well, let's talk about it. When he went down, I mean, the season was over. What Pat? Can you remind me what game that was in? Was it game like 3 or no? It was game
5.
4, 5. Yeah,
Yeah.
game 5.
The Knicks
I mean,
had
yeah.
just
Go ahead.
gone up like 9 or 10 with 3 minutes to go, and Tatum blows the Achilles. And like the Knicks had like real momentum. Like they were at one point, I think they were down 5, and they made like a 15-point run. Not consecutively, but like over the
Yeah.
course of like 8 minutes. And then Tatum went down, and that basically just did the season over with. Go ahead. I know I interrupted.
No, that was good because that definitely helped. But I mean, after that, the team just couldn't really do it. They ended up getting one win without him, but by that time, the series was pretty much over. And just a really disappointing end to the season with such a fun Celtics team, I think, and a Celtics team that got a lot of flack from the media, especially the older media personalities throughout the season with their offense.
It was definitely game 4, by the way, too. So I not only
Okay.
did I interrupt, but I also gave the wrong the wrong
No, you're
game.
good. So that gave y'all a 3-1 lead, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were probably like a 90% chance to get the 3-1 lead. Then Tatum blows out the
I
Achilles.
think I think you guys win that game no matter what, but I think that there's more of a chance of a comeback if Tatum. That's how I felt. Like once Tatum went out, I
Yeah.
knew there was no way that they could come back. Um, and wow, it was crazy. It was shocking, very shocking, and I guess I'll go a little off topic here. Like the Achilles injuries in the playoffs, like it's just it's crazy how these stars are getting like injured in the same way. Like, do you think it's like a usage thing, like the fact that they're playing so hard, or not so hard, but playing so many games and minutes over the season, or is it just unfortunate circumstances?
I think most of it's pre-existing injuries. Like a lot of people will point to minutes, but like most of the Achilles tears this year and like throughout the course of like NBA history have been towards the start of the season. It's pretty consistent with ACL tears. A lot of people pointed towards closed-toed shoes, or not closed-toed shoes. All of
Oh,
them are in closed-toed shoes, but
is
high
that
top
is that
shoes.
the is that the cure? Maybe
I
some flip flops, some
I've
slides.
never heard of Jesus tearing his Achilles.
Ooh, that is very true. I have not seen that, and I have
Even
not
if
read.
you relate that to Celtic uh, legend Ray Allen, Jesus Shuttleworth, he never tore his Achilles.
Ooh,
So
there you go.
potentially there's that. I would say this, like Tatum had a less documented lower body injury going into like the later parts of the series, and then Halliburton had like what everybody knew was a very serious calf strain, and there was like real concern of if he should have been even been playing. Um,
I mean, obviously he's gonna play. Like I'm
yeah,
sure that management didn't even want him to be playing in that game 7, but y- human nature takes over. Like you can't really fault anyone for him. I mean, I guess you can, but I mean, in my eyes, you can't. Like you said, the calf strain was very like apparent and like was this like a real serious concern like throughout that Knicks series and into the Thunder series. And we saw him even playing injured, and he was still going crazy. And then eventually, it just snapped. And I guess you're right. Like the same thing with KD. He also was facing injuries throughout those playoffs, and he tried to suit up because the Warriors were struggling against the Raptors, and then we saw what happened there. So
and even Damian Lillard was rushed back, recovering from a blood clot. Um, Obviously, when that happens, you don't assume Achilles. But like rushing him back from an injury after like he didn't play for 2 months leading up to getting rushed back. That's the real reason. Like, there was a red flag there. The Halliburton stuff too. Like, you can say it's hindsight based, but like people like legitimately, like I was saying it before, like Halliburton's probably going to tear his Achilles if like the season continues past this. But it was just game 7. There's never going to be higher stakes than game 7s of the finals. I think it makes sense for Halliburton to play. Like, obviously it didn't work out well, but if they win the NBA finals, like let's say like the defense was really good through the first quarter and the offense Halliburton was providing was enough to help them further on in the game after, I don't know, like even if he still went down, like let's say the offense was so good that gave them long-term chances of, throughout that game holding a
Yeah,
lead,
gave
then
them a big enough lead to keep
yeah,
building on that. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
it would have been looked at as like the most valiant playoff effort of all time, probably, and like it would have been really awesome. It sucks that the finals ended that way. And in regards to Tatum, I don't think even only Boston knew what he was going through. Like, we don't have the exact records, but it didn't seem like something that was like a huge red flag. I think his was, um, like it was just wear and tear. Like, eventually people are going to get hurt, throughout the course of and like NBA basketball is as physically demanding as it's ever been. Obviously the huge schedules is a thing, but like even just the amount of movement that players are doing, the amount of advanced movements as well. Like, before there's a lot of movement, but it's just tussling for position, typically ground bound in the lane, fighting for rebound position. Now, like, super far closeouts are normalized, and attacking off the catch has to be done in like a split second, and the faster you do it, the you might get an extra $2 million on the open market per year. So like there's real incentive for this. It sucks, and like Tatum is a strong dude, man. Like he's big. So
Should we? Can I go ahead and ask I mean, this might be getting ahead of it a little bit, but I mean, it relates to the Celtics. But I don't know if we should wait till we talk about the player stuff, about like the roster. You
bring it up during the
bring it
roster.
up.
Is it
So
is
like,
it
okay,
Just tell
yeah.
me the brief thing
Just
that
like, you
is.
think he comes back this season? Because like he's had such a accelerated like return. Like he's walked like, at least some of the stuff I've seen is like that he's like moving, running. I don't really know like what all that entails, but he's saying that like he's coming back like accelerated. But like, is it worth it? Like, if they're running for a playoff spot?
We'll get through the other stuff first, and when we get to the
Okay,
team, we'll talk about it a little bit
all right,
more. 2025 offense, they were second in offensive rating at a 120.6, second in preventing turnovers, 18th in offensive rebounding, 29th in pace, sixth in isolation efficiency, fourth in pick and roll ball handler efficiency, 19th in roller efficiency, sixth in post up efficiency, and then 18th in transition efficiency. Notably with the efficiencies, high isolation, high post up team. Believe it or not, the Celtics were not only shooting threes this year. I think that was a huge point of debate about their offense throughout the year. It was pretty dumb, in my opinion, because I think they play a very simple style of basketball, but that's, it's very easy to play that simple style when that is how their star players were best utilized. I think if this is not a Milwaukee Bucks type of situation where the star players are being misutilized. Like, that's how the Celtics should be playing. Transition wise, they didn't get out in transition very frequently. Other than that, like it was a pretty good offense. They were able to generate a ton of good catch and shoot 3-point attempts, a ton of shots at the rim. It's a very modernized offensive approach. And I think the key for them is this year they really avoided turnovers. And that was kind of a step up from what we had previously seen from past iterations of the team. They were pretty good about it in 2024 as well. But what stands out to you with their offense?
Um, yeah, definitely the post up stuff is very intriguing. I think they like to run a lot of that with Porzingis. use his tall length to get quick turnaround jumpers, and even with Tatum as well, like he had a good fadeaway shot, and maneuvered well when he got to the block. The pick and roll ball handler stuff was really good for them. They had quick guards that were able to run it. Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, even, who was a spark off the bench this year. He won Sixth Man of the Year, right, Pat? Yeah, so really good stuff from him. Um, the isolation stuff was really good. Really good offense. It is very interesting to me though that they didn't get out and transition a lot. That's something that catches my eye. But they still converted at a pretty good rate, and they were very slow. Not a crazy pace team. I mean, we just did an episode on the slowest team in the league with the Nets, and now we have the second slowest team in the league, and look how different their seasons are. That's kind of that's funny. But yeah, that really good offense. I mean, an insane offense. We saw scoring runs that they went on, and we saw them convert a bunch of threes. And like you said, that wasn't all they were doing, and they still were able to make that many. So I think that was really impressive. Also, the rebounding stuff stands out.
I think the key too with the pace, if you just look personnel wise, the Celtics have this killer starting five that has a ton of really good offensive players. Them playing slow is very indicative of them trying to create a mismatch via switch hunting, which they will then attack playing five out, because if you're playing five out, there's five shooters on the floor. It's very hard to help in that situation. If not, you're going to probably give up a 3-point attempt, because they had plenty of guys who could move the ball. Even like you go a little deeper in their bench, Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, Al Horford, those guys can all shoot and move the ball. So they could get a switch. They could hunt a switch for the first 10 seconds of the possession, whether that's in the post or whether that's just playing out of ball screens at the top of the floor, and then they would attack that mismatch and make you make a decision, either going to be a layup, free throws, or an open 3-point attempt at some point. Basically, they're trying to either get a favorable mismatch or put you in rotation, which will then probably lead to multiple passes after the initial kick out. It's just naturally going to decrease the pace. Versus the Nets, they were forced to play at a slower pace because personnel-wise, they couldn't really play at a faster pace because a lot of their guys struggled to move the ball. Versus Boston, they were very good at moving the ball in the right situations, which sounds a little counterintuitive, or not counterintuitive, but contrary. Brooklyn was slow to move the ball, so then they would have a lot more empty possessions. Boston would have very organized, longer possessions is the key difference there. We'll move to their defense. A 111.1 defensive rating, was 5th in the NBA. They were 24th in forcing turnovers, 7th in defensive rebounding. Play type wise, 9th defending isolation, 6th defending pick and roll handlers, 1st defending rollers at 101 points per possession. That's really good. Post up defense was 14th, and then they were 1st in transition defense at 105 points per possession transition. That's really, really awesome. I think the highlights here are obviously the transition defense being so amazing. High percentage of isolation offense against, second highest isolation frequency against is great to see. I mean, a lot of really good signs here. They're able to secure defensive rebounds, 10 possessions. It's pretty damn good. What do we have here?
Yeah, you mentioned it. The isolation stuff's really good. The transition stuff's incredible. Not only are you holding teams to the least amount of points per possession on that end, but also they're not really getting out that much in transition on you compared to the rest of the league. Also, the pick and roll stuff is really great. You're first in the roll. You're first defending rollers, and you're also first. You're 6th in defending ball handlers, so you're top 10 in that category. That is a staple in today's NBA. We mention it a lot when we talk about schemes and stuff like that. And the fact that the Celtics were so good at stopping it is just really great stuff. It speaks to how good their point of attack defense is, and how well they're able to attack screens. And look, this is a fifth ranked defense that's not like turning teams over a lot. So they're just playing like good, solid defense, contesting shots. The Luke Cornett contest that was made famous. That's just how they play. Kind of speaks to how they play defense. They use the shot clock to their advantage, or as like a second defender, because they get teams down in it a lot by the pressure they put on you, and they're really good at securing rebounds on the defensive end, which was something that we didn't see on the offensive end. So.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and transition to scheme as well to primarily talk about their defense because I think it's really like the offense is very simple and like I think we covered a lot of it talking about their offense, but yeah, defensively like they can do a lot of unique stuff based off of the personnel that they had a year ago when they had Porzingis in actions. They're going to put him in a pretty deep drop because they trust Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Derek White can fight over screens. When Porzingis isn't involved in screens, they're switching a ton because Drew Holiday's a tank and can defend centers from time to time. And like Jason Tatum often is guarding centers for the other team because he's also a tank and he's 6'8". So yeah, they have a lot of scheme versatility. How they deploy Jaylen Brown depends on, if it's the playoffs or not. A lot of the time in the playoffs, like they'll put Jaylen Brown on the other team's best player because Derek White and Drew Holiday are such good off-ball defenders, and Jaylen Brown sometimes struggles with awareness off the ball. So he can get really engaged on the ball defensively. Like I said, switching is like the forefront of their defense. Even when like they do run into trouble switching, like Al Horford is the guy who teams look to attack, and that can seem advantageous at times, but Al Horford, he could fight last year. And if you didn't have a super quick guard, Al Horford wasn't shaving too much away from them because Al Horford is like the playoff defense god, especially against big wings and centers because he knows the exact amount of physicality that he can apply without getting called for a foul. Like, look at how he's defended Embiid and Giannis in their playoff careers. It's like actually insane. Other than that, their head coach is Joe Mazzulla, general manager Brad Stevens, Sam Cassell, Matt Reynolds, and Tony Dobbins, assistant coaches. Anything you have on these coaches? Obviously, probably a couple more scheme things that you got on Boston.
Yeah. Brad Stevens, one of the better GMs in the league, and we'll talk about the offseason that he had. I think he did some really good stuff to combat the Jason Tatum loss and even combat some of the salary cap stuff that you'll touch on later. As far as the defense, I think you pretty much covered a lot of it. Another thing I'll just add is that like this was a team that was not afraid to go into the zone at times as well, not only in the regular season but in the playoffs, which is always good to see in the NBA because it's such a curveball, honestly, when you can run it for some possessions. Also, Joe Mazzulla is just one of the best coaches in the league. And yeah, we talked a lot about on offense with, with Porzingis, they love to run like a lot of the pick and roll action with him. And they had shooters just waiting for the ball, getting ready to shoot while Tatum or Brown would go to work, penetrating the defense and either getting a bucket or kicking out. But other than that, I think we may have touched on it.
Yeah, I think the post-up stuff too is pretty important. They're three players. They really only posted up with three guys last year, and it was Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis. All of them averaged two or more possessions a game out of the post. The big key with it for Tatum and Brown is getting them in position where there's a still picture in front of them where they can see everything, especially with Jaylen Brown, because you see it come playoff time when he's asked to create a little bit more off the dribble, go through tougher driving lanes. He can really struggle with like extra defensive attention being sent at him. Post-ups is a good way not only for them to attack mismatches, but just to simplify the reads for those two guys. because they'll usually, even like Drew Holiday's typically in the dunker spot for them because it puts a guard in the dunker spot, and it makes it harder to like justify putting one of your weak defenders on Drew Holiday, because then that guy's going to be parked right by the rim the whole time, and that just like makes it very hard to send help if you're not sending it from the guy closest to the guy posting up. And then like they love 5 out if they're not putting somebody in the dunker. Then obviously they'll put like Cornet and Keita in the dunker in those situations. But yeah, they really good. Brad Stevens, what do we have on him as a GM?
Yeah, I already said I think he's one of the best in the league, and I think that he did a really good job
Yeah.
of in this offseason. Yeah. Uh, we'll talk. We're gonna wait to talk about it, I'm sure.
And even we can talk about the building the 24 team. He took some risks in making that deal. Like he traded franchise icon Marcus Smart, who had just recently won Defensive Player of the Year, in a trade that got them Porzingis. Malcolm Brogdon and Robert Williams were like key players on their 2023 team. He traded those guys to get Drew Holiday, who, you know, was good, but was Drew Holiday what they needed at the time? Like a lot of people thought they needed a player like Damian Lillard at that time, and that was a real thing. Like Boston potentially getting Dame was great. What if? Because it would have probably still worked out for them, but yeah, there was inherent risk at the time, and like Brad Stevens just really cooked building that team, and I think he's done a good job since. We'll go to their draft. They had 3 picks. 28th overall, they selected Hugo Gonzalez. 46th overall was Amari Williams, and 59th overall, last pick in the draft, was Max Shulga. Amari Williams and Max Shulga are on 2-way contracts currently. Yeah, do you want to start anywhere with any of these guys?
Oh, hold on. My being very slow. Oh, oh man, just disappeared on me. Give me 1 second, and then ask it again. Sorry,
Yeah,
my
you're
word
good. I'll just start
documentation.
on Shulga. Because I
Okay.
think he's the most simple you got to go through. As you can see, last pick in the draft this season was a 5-year college player. And he was really pretty good his last 2 seasons, shooting over 5 attempts a game from 3-point land, just shy of 40% over those 2 seasons. Was a volume shooter, actually like projects as a pretty decent passer. He had about a 2 assist to turnover ratio over those last 2 seasons. Took steps forward as an on-ball scorer. Whether or not he defends in the NBA, we'll just have to see. But he was like a really audacious shooter, and like isn't a nothing as a passer. And that's, worth taking at 59th overall, considering he's 23 years old, might be able to contribute right away, fits the identity of shooting a ton of 3-point attempts and being able to move the ball a little bit. And he's 6'4", so like not somebody who's like, he might not be good defensively, but there is at least a world where he's not a absolute train wreck on that end. Yeah, you got your stuff up.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about Hugo. I'm ready to talk about Hugo. Um,
Did you have anything
yeah.
else on Shulga, I guess?
Oh no.
Just shooter player, like we covered it just then. Like, see what he ends up being. Let's go on Hugo because I think he's polarizing.
Yeah. Really good pick from the Celtics. 6'7". Oh, come on. That 6'7", really good athleticism. Really good like vertical pop, 42-inch vertical. The thing to love about him is the defense. Guards 1 through 3 pretty well. And the length is good. 6'10" wingspan. And he's pretty quick on his feet as well. Most of his offense, like in the EuroLeague, was coming through transition, really good at cutting, finishing at the rim. Really smart cutter. I think Joe Mazzulla will find many ways to get him the ball in open spaces to get easy buckets. Um, so like off ball threat for sure. The thing to worry about is definitely the shooting. Wasn't a very consistent shooter from the 3 point line or the field. 44% from the field, 27% from the 3 point line. But he was a good free throw shooter, 77%. So typically that's a good sign. So perhaps that he can become more of like a catch and shoot threat, maybe a good 3 and D in the league. Um, and then just most of the other stuff, most of the common weaknesses with these off-ball threats, just can't really create by himself, and we don't know like what his offensive role will be. I tend to think it will be as like a catch and shoot guy, that will also has the ability to cut in at times, but yeah.
I think the interesting part about Hugo is he was like the number 2 international prospect going into the year behind Nolan Traore, who we talked about last episode. Both of those guys fell. Traore was more because early season struggles. Hugo was because he's playing on Real Madrid and like he just barely ever played. And when he did play, it was like purely as a like off-ball player with not much on-ball responsibility. Like you said, most of his offense coming in transition. I think the things that you like about Hugo is, like you said, he's got plus size. He's like 225 pounds already, which is really impressive from a 19-year-old. Athleticism is there. He really shows like that he gives a shit on defense, and that's not always promised with these like, or that's not always common with these like high profile draft players that aren't getting offensive opportunity. So those things are good. I think the one concern on the defensive side for me is like sometimes the fouls are just like what is going on? Like that's just the stupidest foul I've ever seen. But he has the height, the length, the athleticism to just be a good defender at some point. And I think that's a good reason to at least get him drafted. Offensively, athleticism is good. It didn't translate to getting to the rim necessarily. I think the handle's the primary reason why he couldn't get to the rim, and then he struggled to finish once he got to the rim. So that's a work in progress. I think like he's definitely an off-ball player at this point. And we'll just, like you said, the shot's shaky. Some indicators were good. The free throw shot was good. There was decent variety to his shot attempts, and like he was expected to be a better shooter than he was this past year, so maybe it was just a down season. But then like he struggled to finish at the rim, and that's typically a good indicator of touch. We'll just have to see. When I wrote down Hugo Gonzalez, usually I have like I have a range, like a grade, like either lottery, first round, draftable player, like very low or high UDFA, stuff like that. And Hugo Gonzalez was question mark, question mark, question mark. And then his NBA comp was blank canvas. He might be something. I just don't know what.
Yeah.
And one other thing, his passing did look kind of promising whenever there was an advantage, but like the handle's just such a work in progress right now that I don't know what to do about it. And we barely saw game footage of him this year compared to most other players because low minute, very low priority role. It's just so hard to determine anything with this guy. But he could be something good. Did you have any like NBA names besides blank canvas?
Uh, like maybe if he really gets the shot down, he could be like a Josh Green, a guy that can guard multiple positions and also shoot the ball well from three, and be like a effective cutter. But he definitely needs to work on the shot to get there.
One of the names that came up was Josh Okogie for me. Like taller,
Ooh,
stronger Josh Okogie.
I love Josh Okogie, big Josh Okogie guy. So that's fire.
Yeah, a guy who's stuck around for like 8 years already now. So Like, not a terrible pick at 28th overall if that's what he becomes. There's maybe some Dylan Brooks to him. You know, big, strong defender. I think physically they match up a little bit better, and Hugo might be a little more athletic. It's just Dylan Brooks was older and more progressed as an offensive player coming into the league. Amari Williams was a player on a lot of people's like a lot of people did like Amari Williams going into the year. So I'm interested. What do you have on Amari?
Yeah, sorry, I always got to check to make sure I'm not muted. Amari Williams, big, 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 big. 6'11" with a 7'5" wingspan from Kentucky last season. Put up 9 points per game, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1.8 blocks. So right away, you love the size 6'11", 255. Previous mentioned 7'5" wingspan. Makes him like a real defensive threat, and like I said, 1.8 blocks per game, so good rim protector as well. He was also good at rebounding, 7 per game, big size, really good at being physical, not afraid of contact. Um, and he was pretty good defensively, like switching and hedging screens in the pick and roll. So obviously not a guy that you can switch, but like if you need a quick hedge, this is definitely a guy that you look to because he's able to provide that aspect on defense. Some of the weaknesses, just not really great offensively. More of a guy that's going to be a defensive anchor, rim protector. That can't stretch the floor at all. Doesn't have really a mid range game, so he can't really create by himself. He's going to need someone to do it for him. But um, besides that, like I like the defensive prospect of Armani Williams. So I will say that I don't really know what he's going to bring on offense, but the defense is definitely something to look at.
Yeah, I think he's at least worth drafting for sure. I think the two-way call is pretty good. I think he could have even got a standard based off of the Celtics center situation. Um, he spent 1 year at a big basketball school in Kentucky, and that's no joke. I think the combination of how physically he plays on the defensive end and his ability to stay out of foul trouble is pretty interesting. His last 2 seasons at Drexel, he averaged 1.7 and then 1.4 fouls a game, which is like really pretty low for somebody who's going to be at the rim contesting a ton of shots. I think as a rim protector, he's fine, like good enough to make it into the league. And then, like you said, you can throw him out on a hedge from time to time. Like there's some scheme versatility. I think as an offensive player, he's like basically like a pure play finisher. The shot never really became anything. And like he's a career like 53% college free throw shooter. So no, 63%. So yeah, not much there. I think the passing feel was a little bit interesting. He averaged over 3 assists a game this year in college, which is pretty respectable for a big man. And he's a pretty good rebounder too. So I think, at the very least, it's somebody who can play a little bit. Maybe he ends up carving out an NBA role at some point. Usually with these older backup centers that are taken in the second round, usually they kind of just kick around on their first team and then end up making an impact on the second team that they go to. So, I don't know if this is necessarily going to help too much for the Celtics. Maybe they really need him and he flashes a little bit. He reminds me a little bit of Tristan Thompson. Not a super tall center, secure rebounds. He's probably a little bit better as a positional defender than Tristan Thompson was. I think that's like the optimistic outcome. Even like a slightly more optimistic outcome is like this season's Isaiah Stewart, but not as good of a rim protector because Isaiah Stewart was an awesome rim protector. I think Amari Williams is like in the NBA is going to be like a passable rim protector. So, what'd you think? If you had any comps for him?
Yeah, I like Daniel Gafford.
That's a good one too.
Not really a guy that's going to create for himself on offense, and I mean, I'm not a crazy good rim protector, but definitely gets the job done, um, on every night. So I think like best case scenario, you get the defense and rebounding of Gafford, and I mean I guess the offense because he probably will be a lob threat,
I
but yeah,
I think Gafford's definitely got more touch. Like he has
yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
good touch, and I don't really know if that's there with Amari Williams. And then Gafford's definitely like Amari Williams is more slight, I would say. Um, but I think the defense is like the level of defender I think he might be is Daniel Gafford like, where it's like it's fine for a center, like it's not hurting you too much. And he's not completely unmobile, which is good for Amari Williams. We're talking about their second round picks for enough. We'll move to their trades and free agents. The guys they get are less exciting than the guys they trade away, but they get Chris Boucher on a league minimum. That's honestly a pretty good Amari Williams comparison if Chris Boucher couldn't shoot. Um, Anthony Simons they acquire in trade with Portland, Luka Garza and Josh Minot, and Jalen Bridges on league minimum deals. I think Jalen Bridges is actually a camp deal, but uh, yeah, any of these are big to you.
Yeah, I think the Simons one is pretty big, pretty huge. Trade away Drew Holiday. He was making a lot of money, and that definitely played a big factor in it. But you trade defense for offense, and Anthony Simons, who had been getting it done in Portland the past 3 years, dipped a little bit this year, but yeah, he dipped a little bit this year. But I mean, that Portland team was not very good, and also that was his first year without Dame, or no, he played one more season without Dame, but he was hurt for he only played 46 games in that season. But 19 points per game, you're getting a flamethrower, 36%, 36% shooter with 8 attempts. So he shoots a lot, but he has touch. He's been in the high 30s for most of his career, 42% from the field, with 4.8 assists. So you get a guy that can give you something on offense, with the shooting and the playmaking ability as well. It's going to be interesting to see him, especially in a team that likes to shoot threes a lot. You get a guy that can definitely do it, and then Chris Boucher. Man, I've been a big Chris Boucher guy for a while. Uh, had a good season for the Raptors this year. Shot 36% from three off 3 attempts. He's a big that can stretch the floor, gives you a threat from three. They love that. Uh, Maybe he's Al Horford's. He's next to take over the Al Horford's throne. But like they've generally gotten good stuff out of bigs. They're big, so maybe they turn him into something good on defense as well. Luka Garza, guy that hasn't been able to play in Minnesota, but I mean he's looked good in like preseason slash G League slash uh and I think he went to Iowa, so back at Iowa. Um, yeah, Josh Minott as well was very good, and so was Jalen Bridges. So it looks like they got a lot of guys from Minnesota. Um, Even though I think Boucher is from Toronto, but
Yeah, he
oh
was
well.
still at Toronto.
Okay, okay.
Um, I'm seeing if you nailed the Luka Gar. It was Iowa. That's a
Yeah,
bang. That's the
yeah.
backside homer right there.
He was pretty good there last season, or
Yeah,
he was pretty good there that season. That's why.
yeah. I had no recollection of that, and that was really not too long ago. um, but yeah, I think the Simons deal. He's a good player. I think if they get the player that he was a couple seasons ago, where he like, he shot 9 threes a game. Really like he had a good 3 year run from 22 to 24. It's just he wasn't very healthy for those games, and he was in and out of the starting lineup versus a bench role. It was really hard to evaluate what he was as a player. And then this past season, he was actually healthy for once, and everything was just slightly worse. Um, not completely out on him as a player, and then you go look at all the lineup numbers, and you're like, damn, they were better without Simons on the floor last year in Portland, which is rough. I think a little bit of that is Ayton conflation, um, but yeah, I mean there's a chance that he can bounce back in a real way and become a good player, and they can flip him. And I think that's kind of the key for him. I think he presents tough team building strategies or situations, but it's definitely worth. I think the real reason they did that trade with Drew Holiday was to get off of Drew Holiday's extremely huge contract, and Simons is an expiring deal. We'll talk about that more in the cap section. And Boucher is like good in every advanced metric that exists. Like some of them will have him as like a top 20 player in the league, and you're like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. But then it's like everybody else is like a pretty good player, and then it's Chris Boucher, because he shoots threes, blocks shots, and gets deflections as a center. So it's just pretty fun player. I like Chris Boucher. At the very least, he's like actually someone who's decent. We'll see
He
what
has that
Garza and
one.
Minot do. They haven't had real NBA chances. Doesn't mean they're
Yeah.
good. Just doesn't mean we know what they are. It means that we don't know what they are. Torrey Craig, J.D. Davidson are two unsigned losses for them. Drew Holiday goes to Portland. Al Horford is going to the Warriors. Not official yet, but he is. Luke Kornet to the Spurs. Drew Peterson to the Hornets. And then Kristaps Porzingis to the Hawks. Obviously, there's a ton of big losses here. Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, and Kornet were all really good last season. They're losing a ton of center play. And I think it's been waxed poetic about a ton by a ton of people, so we're not going to bore you out with it. Does it go any further than that for you?
No, I mean I think the big ones, the Drew Holiday and the Kristaps Porzingis ones, make sense with why they did it. Like you said, Drew Holiday, the contract, Kristaps Porzingis, the inability to be on the court was detrimental, especially in the playoffs. Like he was coming up with injuries like out of the blue. It felt like Luke Cornett. It hurts a little bit because he was pretty good for them last season. Not only is on defense, but he sparked some offense for him. Especially, was it against the Knicks when he went crazy, or was that just a random game he just did? I think it
I
was just a
think you're
random game.
thinking of it
Or,
right. He had a great defensive game against the Knicks in one of the
yeah,
games.
maybe that's what I'm thinking about. But Drew Peterson as well. Uh, like you said, I that's really all there is to it. It you lose Tatum, so you have to make these trades, make these moves to salvage something. And honestly, like if Tatum's still on the team, like if he's playing this season, I don't hate what's going on even still. So I'm okay with these losses.
Prime example of the backup center stuff. Luke Kornet, big example right there. Like the backup centers they'll hang around on a couple of teams, and then they'll just be on a random one and it'll pop. Cody Zeller, a good example. Isaiah Hartenstein, good example. He ended up becoming a $30 million a year starter. Ivica Zubats, he's was on a ton of All NBA ballots last year, like rightfully so. Like, yeah, that's just a little bit more context for the Omari Williams enthusiasm. Here's their cap sheets with Spotrac. Jason Tatum, even though he's out for the entire season, still on the cap sheet. Him and Jaylen Brown are earning supermax contracts, and yeah, they're making a ton of money over the terms of those deals. 35% of the cap for each of them. It's rough, but ideally those guys are worth it. Derek White, they've worked out an extension for. Anthony Simons has a 1-year, $28 million a year expiring deal. Hauser and Pritchard have been paid already, thankfully for Boston. And then it's literally league minimums. And they had to sign all those league minimums to get under the cap. Or not the cap, but the tax, because they were going to have like a $400 million tax bill because they have been in the tax for, I think this would have been the 6th straight season
Damn.
of like ridiculously high tax numbers. So, or for like 3 or 4 of those seasons, they were ridiculously high tax numbers. So, yeah, they had to kind of,
Switch things up.
yeah, they had to switch things up, and now they're not completely out of the tax yet, but you can duck out of the tax at any time throughout the season, unlike the second apron or the first apron, where you have to be out at
By
the
a certain
start.
point.
Yeah, in order for draft picks to not be frozen. Um, some of the penalties can be retroactive during trade, but yeah,
Where are they? Is that on the next slide where they are at? Because
yeah.
did they get under the second? Okay, well then we'll wait.
As they are currently set up, they are it's saying over the apron for 25-26. That doesn't necessarily sound right. I'll get confirmation from Spot Track. There that could be that could have been captured. There we go. Before the
The trades.
yeah, before the trades. There's a good possibility of that. As they currently stand, they're 4 million over the first apron and 12 million over the tax. So they
Wow,
can,
that's huge considering that they were second. They were over the second apron
yeah,
before that.
their current tax bill is only 40 million, which that does sound crazy, but I am pretty sure like a couple years ago it was like, let's see, I can pull up their 2025 tax bill. That was 52 million, and that was before the Tatum Supermax kicked in, and before the Derek White extension, which was like a $10 million pay raise, kicked in, and the Sam Hauser $10 million pay raise kicked in. So yeah, they were about to be really up against it. We'll go forward to lineup data. I took all of their players that they're losing off, and this is why I like to say that really good teams, it's really hard to pull things lineup data wise from, because without Jason Tatum, Porzingis, Al Horford, Cornet, and Drew Holiday, these are the net ratings and minutes played for these players. You see Neemias Queta at a +6, Pritchard at a +6, Jaylen Brown at a +16, Hauser had a +6, Derek White had a +6. Jordan Walsh was the lone guy who played over 100 minutes, who was a -1.76. This is why I kind of come to this. Some of this, not a lot of this, some of this has got some garbage time thrown into it. Some of this is obviously going to be boosted by they don't need 12 minutes a game of these lineups. Like, these are things that just are randomly going to happen throughout the course of the game from time to time. And I would say, um, we can draw stuff from this, but I don't know how to necessarily draw stuff from it. Because we'll go forward to the lineups. You look at this lineup and you're like, I don't know if this is going to be a good lineup, because I have come away with Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, Sam Hauser, Jaylen Brown, and Chris Boucher. And that was after, like, wait, no, let's actually boot Garza from the starting lineup. Um, I'm just not sure that it's like, I like Peyton Pritchard. I don't know if you can rely on him for a ton of shots of the game, and that's what one of the few like real weaknesses of like net ratings is, like, that's Peyton Pritchard within a certain role that he's playing. That being said, there is still an opportunity that they are still good, because the system works so well, and they still have Jaylen Brown to do a pretty good impression of Jason Tatum, and they have shooters. We'll just have to see. Like, I have no idea. Usually I would have just said there's not much to make out of any of this lineup data, but I tried. Nothing to make out of it. I'll let you get the floor. Do you make anything out of those things?
Out of the lineup data, there's not really much to go off of. I think, like you said, um, I mean, a lineup I think could be interesting is moving Boucher to the 4 and giving Quita the start at the 5, and then putting Brown at 3. Um, Guido looked good. Not only in like, I mean, I guess if you let's make sense of the lineup data. Why not? He looked good in the lineup data stuff.
Let's go.
And in Euroball he played really well
He
as
did.
well. Saw a lot of highlights from him, like going crazy there. So I think giving him a shot. Boucher has played the power forward position before for a lot of his career. And then like you get two starters from last year's season and six man of the year. Like maybe you're not that terrible, honestly. Um, but yeah, I think that's what I went with. Um,
Yeah, I thought about starting Keita. I wanted to prioritize the 5-out spacing because they have, um, because that's really worked for them with Porzingis and then previously with Horford and then even continuously with Horford. And I think it's not a coincidence that they targeted Boucher and Garza, who like profile as potential stretch bigs. So I think they're going to prioritize it. I think Keita was pretty sick in Euro, so there's a good chance that Keita could earn a spot to start. And I think it'll come down to what they think is best coming out of camp. I doubt they know who they're starting at center or power forward, quite frankly. I think did we have any thoughts of Simons over Pritchard? Like,
no, I think I want to see Pritchard start. Um,
yeah,
yeah, Simon's coming off the bench. I think is a good move because we saw him struggle a little bit last year. So let's give him some time to just cool out a little bit, take efficient shots like I know Missoula will help him do, and then they'll go from there. If Pritchard proves that he can't be like a scorer in that volume, then that's when you make the switch. But you got to start off the season with Peyton Pritchard manning the offense.
I think arguing that they're similar tier of players is pretty fair. They have, we just saw the caps. Like Simons is expiring, they have to pay him if they think he's a long-term answer for them. Peyton Pritchard's already signed for them. Like there's way more upside to giving Peyton Pritchard more opportunity to expand his game than Anthony Simons. And quite frankly, like the role he played a season ago on like a defensive first team that which is what I think they will have to be given all the losses that they had, a defensive first team where he's kind of the lead initiator. Like it's Jaylen Brown better than Denny, but is he? Yes, but is he Denny adjacent? Yeah, kind of. I would say like there's no upside to starting Simons. Like you know who he is. You probably still know who Peyton Pritchard is, but he's never had an opportunity to start in his career, and you're like you have him signed. You might as well give him the chance. Hauser, he's just such a good shooter, and they've like routinely prioritized shooting, even like in the draft, like drafting Hauser, drafting Baylor Shireman. I think Hugo Gonzalez is like the one time they've ever really shied away from that. Peyton Pritchard was a draft pick of theirs. Aaron Nesmith was one of the best shooters in the draft when they took him. He didn't even work out for them, but they flipped him for Malcolm Brogdon, who they flipped for Porzingis, I think. I know it's for Holiday, but I didn't know what to say. How do we feel about this team depth-wise?
It's very like unknown. I think like with a lot of these guys, we're talking about guys that never really have gotten a lot of playing time. In Minot, Shireman, Gonzalez, Wash, and Garza. Cedric, that's Cedric Tillman, right?
Yeah,
No.
no, Cedric Tillman's the receiver. Xavier Tillman.
Oh, Xavier Tillman. Xavier Tillman. He's played a little bit, but still not a guy that gets a lot of big minutes. So it's weak right now. I would definitely say that just because these aren't guys that have they're not guys that have been put in this position before. A lot of these guys are gonna have to play big minutes and play significant bench role for the team.
I still remember the 2021 play-in corner three that Xavier Tillman hit against the Warriors. Quite electrifying. I think Memphis won that game and made the 8 seed that year. Let's go Memphis. Yeah, I think there's a couple of players that I could see things going well with. Like Hauser as well has never got a chance to start and is signed. Like kind of the same reasoning I would want them to start Pritchard over Simons. You start Hauser, his reputation is worse than he is defensively. Like he's pretty good defensively. He's got good size, good length. Even if he's like a B, probably even like a C- athlete, like he holds up fine defensively. And if he's guarding your fourth best player, then Hauser, matchup dependent is going to be fine. But like that is also something that we're assuming based off of him playing 18 minutes a game versus now he's going to be playing 28 minutes a game. How does his on-ball limitations that don't matter when he's always going to be playing with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, or Derek White? Maybe there's some situations where he's not playing with one of those guys, or there's not 5-out spacing around him. When do his on-ball limitations start to hurt the team? I think you can say some of the same things about Peyton Pritchard when the defense is locked in on him. What happens there? Simons, I think, is pretty well known. Like he's gonna be able to get buckets in difficult situations and not difficult situations. It's going to be about the same results. Shireman was like not very good last year. Will he be good? Maybe. I could see him being good. I could see him not being good either. Josh Minot, we haven't seen much of him. Tillman, he hasn't played in like 2 years. Keita is a undrafted fourth-year center who's 26 years old on his third team. Is he going to be a good NBA player? Like, I don't think so, but he was pretty good last year and looks good in Eurobasket, so could happen. Garza, same thing. Barely ever played. Chris Boucher has never been like a real starter in the NBA on like a good team, but all the advanced numbers love him. So so much hypotheticals here. And like Hugo, of course, is here.
Yeah. I like, man, I like Quita. Out of all these guys, I think he has the best chance to like have a breakout because of all this. Might be crazy to say, but I'm on the Quita hype train. Maybe I'm caught up in the Euro basketball highlights, but I don't know.
Maybe.
I like
Maybe
it.
not.
I like
I
it.
don't know. I feel like one of them will like end up being somebody who they can play, but I think the bench is like kind of just gonna suck.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're being dealt a really tough hand.
Yeah. I guess now we can talk about the Tatum
Yeah,
likelihood.
yeah. So, Pat, do you think he'll come back? Like if this team is, let's say they're a 9 seed, they're a 9 or 8 seed, and there's like a month and a half left. Does Tatum come back if he's cleared to play? Because he's been shown like doing a lot of movements and stuff, exercises, workouts, stuff that is shows that he's progressive very quickly on the timeline to a Achilles recovery. What are your thoughts? Or is it safe to just shut down the season?
Okay. I did not put Tatum on here because I understand the expectations that the Celtics have recently built for themselves, but there's real incentive for them to get under the tax. There is real incentive for them to not push super hard to be the 6th seed. Like, just, the thumbnail here is make the most of this. I think, and Missoula is going to definitely make the most of it, but not in the way that I would want him to. If I was a Celtics fan, Jaylen Brown better not play more than 50 games this year. We're not asking Jason Tatum to make a superhuman, unprecedented Achilles recovery because the super quick Achilles recoveries have not been the good ones. The good ones you look back on, Kevin Durant missed over a full season, got injured at a pretty similar time in the NBA calendar season, missed a full season, and even a little bit longer because the 2021 season took a little bit longer to start. I think it's really stupid if Jason Tatum plays a basketball game this year. I would extend that to Halliburton and Damian Lillard. Like, you have one of these guys. Don't rush him back. Like, don't rush him back. Just to be the sixth seed and have a tough playoff series against the Orlando Magic while you're starting Chris Boucher. Like, let's not risk, because y'all playing Tatum not at full strength is what got you in this position in the first place. Let Jaylen Brown rest as much as he wants to. I know Joe Mazzulla will be absolutely like furious if this is the strategy they do. I think he'll he might, you might have to make Joe Mazzulla call out of work. Make up a fake Derek White injury to where Derek White doesn't play. Figure out whatever Peyton Pritchard does, whatever he can become. Sure, let that be the case. Let Hugo be on the ball as much as he wants to, and let him turn the ball over 4 times a game. Because if you land Darren Peterson in the draft, that's your James Worthy moment, man. Take this opportunity while you can ethically do it, because you'll never get this opportunity again. I would be absolutely pissed if I was a Celtics fan and this team maximized everything and got 44 wins
That'd be
and
crazy.
rush Jason Tatum back and he re-injures himself. Maybe
Yeah.
even if it's not an Achilles injury, like, it just greatly decreases his long-term outlook as a player. And the one counterpoint to that is you want the role players to be accustomed to playing in a realistic system for next year and have them acclimated to the system. My one counterpoint to that is all of the players that will matter on next year's team have already played with the Boston Celtics. Like, Pritchard has, Hauser has. They are already shopping Anthony Simons, so I don't think he's in their long-term plans. Is Neemias Queta's job going to change that much year to year? Like, it's not. He's going to set screens and go to the rim. I don't see much difference in them learning the system. Put Hugo Gonzalez on the ball and see what he's got for this year. Is he going to be this year's Gigi Jackson? Probably, and he might not matter to them next year, but at least increase that trade stock or do something for next year. Or not for next year, but like, I would be. This needs to be a Darren Peterson team, and Jaylen Brown. Go ahead and get that knee surgery that they were talking about. Well, he already got it, so never mind. But I would have told him to wait as long as possible to get that knee surgery. Do you have a different view?
No, I definitely agree. This is not the season. Like, even if you do like end up playing like and you guys do make a play, and like you said, you're gonna be playing a top seed. You're gonna have like Tatum's gonna have to go out there and like bust his ass every night, uh and that just makes the risk of re-aggravating it, re-injuring it even like greater. So there's no point. This is a season where you can dip under taxes to just build up to next season. Like you said, shit, you might get a really good draft pick, and that just makes you like even scarier. Like, it's like a Maverick situation where they stumbled in the Cooper Flag. Like, obviously not, maybe not someone or definitely not someone that as generational of a talent, but still for that good a team to be able to get such like a quality draft pick is huge.
I mean, even if you land like the 9th overall pick, like,
Yeah.
that can be an actual rotational player for you, that you were getting at a discounted price, and a team that is fighting the tax is going to need that. And like, there's like, the center room is like shaky at very best. Like, you can argue that it's bad. It's a bunch of hypothetical guys with Boucher, Queta, and Garza. So yeah, I'm just not rushing Tatum back. I think the more interesting case is when Tatum comes back, is he playing center? next year.
I don't know about that. Actually, I think you could see some long stretches. I don't know if he starts at center, but you could
Yeah,
definitely see long stretches with him at center. For sure, I can see that.
because recently they've been doing the Tatum guard center things. I would be interested if they just lean into that once he comes back. Maybe he's like a step slower. He can bulk up a little bit more than he even has. And he's just like, I don't know, like trying to think of like a good historical example of somebody doing it, but uh like when LeBron played center for the Lakers for a year or two, like it could be something like that. And they just lean into what's made.
Draymond. Jeez.
I,
What about
I
Draymond?
I
Does
don't
that
think it's
count?
Draymond like because Draymond like actually was a rim
Yeah.
protector like a
Okay.
center.
Yeah. Dang, I had to say his name like 10 times. I had to look around and thought he was gonna show up. Riverside wouldn't let me say anything. It's crazy.
Draymond was gonna punch you, man. Uh,
He knows I like Jordan Poole.
Other than that, I think have we hit all the Celtics points for this season?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think so. I'm ready. As the clock hits midnight.
Yeah, I can't wait to predict them in 2 weeks. I don't know what we're gonna say about them, but can't wait to do
Because
that.
like we're definitely gonna end up predicting them to get like a lottery pick and they'll get the 7th seed somehow. With
Oh, Joe Mazzulla is going to be like he's gonna have all of the predictions posted on his wall. Um, the No Balls podcast said we're gonna finish with 32 wins. Yeah, dude, I'll show you.
I would take the shout out. I would take the shout out.
Missoula wouldn't shout us out. He would call us. He would insult us without calling out our names. Um, and Josh Minot would be an NBA rotational player. Um, yeah, Madman Joe Missoula. I'm man, the second podcast in a row where I'm upset we can't go over somebody's like famous quotes because Missoula, in a different
He
way
has some
than
good ones. He has some good ones.
MPJ has some awesome quotes. I think we're gonna need to do that. It's like an early season episode. It's like the best NBA quotes.
We could maybe pull some from Teague's podcast, Jeff Teague, 520 Club podcast. There's a
Fa-
shout out. I know
famous
they,
Celtic Jeff Teague.
yeah, famous Buck.
Cool. Yeah. All right.
See, he's got a ring. He's got a ring.
He does have a ring. Yeah, that's fair. Other than that, you got anything else?
No, let's move on.
All right. Next episode will be my New York
No
Knicks.
court questions.
Oh shit. Jeez. We'll fly through them. Do we think they improved this offseason?
No, because they lost Tatum.
Yeah, same thing we said with Halliburton. Do we think they set themselves up better for the future?
I do because they did such a good job of getting under the salary tax, or the
Yeah,
tax and the luxury tax and the aprons and all that.
that plus not re-signing any of their centers gives them like a real chance to get a high lottery pick. So that will help them long term too. Offensive MVP for me is I guess Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, same.
Defensive MVP, yeah, like Derek White. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll give it to Derek White. Derek White.
X factor for them. I think Joe Mazzulla and how hard he pushes the team is like actually a good answer.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. And if you want to go player, maybe Peyton Pritchard. Like if he shows that he can really become a starting point guard, that's big. That's big for this ragtag group of Celtics that they have right
I
now.
could also see a situation where this is like Jaylen Brown doesn't play many games and Derek White doesn't play many games, but Peyton Pritchard has like a Mickey Mouse 2019 Brooklyn Nets type of D'Angelo Russell run. And
Yeah,
just like, how is this team good? And it's not a good team, but the East is so weak that they do that. I would that would be the nightmare scenario because then you just bench Jaylen Brown and Derek White for no reason. Made up fake injuries for him just for Pritchard to lead you to the playoffs. Other than that, next week's episode, I guess not even next week's, in two days, y'all will be seeing the New York Knicks. Yeah, that should be a very good episode. You got anything else before we wrap this one up? All right, we will do just that. 2 days.